All right, so concrete's here. I had a trailer, guy bring it with a trailer. Otherwise, I was gonna have to tow it here, pour it, finish it, and get it back within 2 hours. That wasn't happening because they're 30 minutes away. So I'm basically gonna have him dump the trailer into the wheelbarrow. I'll wheelbarrow it into the holes. This is my quick screed that I made. I notched out a 2x6, so this is the thickness or the depth of the bottom of or this will be the top of the slab here. So I can screed back and forth. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. We're good to go. See what I'm doing, Mike? Is remember I undercut this, right? So what I'm doing is I'm making sure the concrete's well under the other slab so it keys it in. Well, it's like anything else. Preparation makes for an easy job. Measure twice, cut once. You know, it applies to everything. What a deal. I think we're good. We have a little extra here to fill these in. I want to bring this up to the same height. This is where our sleeving is going. He's money my credit card for concrete and a vacation to Tahiti right now. Yeah, wow. 7,000 and first class tickets. What's this about? What this is that we're floating it, right? So this is a float. So what it does is it helps push the aggregate down and bring the cream to the surface. Because trying to finish the aggregate on the very top, you don't get a very nice finish. So this is a screed, this is a float, and then we'll be using trowels to finish it off. That's why I kept the wheelbarrow. See how it's actually settled out just a little bit. See, there's a lot of water there, so that corner's a little low, right? So what we'll do is get some concrete and set in there, and then that water will go the other way. It's got to sit up, tighten up a little bit before I can do any more to it. So in the meantime, I'll clean everything up, wipe the floor down, and then we'll do some more finish work. Go to Obsessed Garage and buy it's a gray gauntlet towel, I believe. It's the big one, right? I think it's a 16 by 24, I believe. You know, we'll rinse that out and it'll be good as new.
And you can use that to
wipe down, drying it on the RS, Yeah, don't mind that sand. Take the RS from a shiny to a matte finish, This will get taken care of when I do the tile. We'll thin set over that, make that nice and smooth, and then I got paint match the floor that I'll paint, because this is getting grouted, right? Goes to here. I'll touch up this and also that slot and where this concrete sloughed off. Isn't this how we do it? This is Micro Restore here. It's definitely drizzling now. Oh yeah. Oh boy, the LS. You guys coating on that? Jeez, what's it coated with? G-Technic? Man, that is one sweet ride, Mike. That's why I don't go to the gym. See, right now I'm tightening my abs and planking. That is a lot of water coming to the top. Said that was a 5-inch slump. I'm not so sure. But the one thing about this is, so we have plastic down, right? So there's nowhere for the moisture to go but up, because it can't soak into the soil below. So that's part of the reason it's so wet on top. So where we are is I floated it already with the wood float, and now I'm beginning to get it troweled, put a trowel finish on it. I don't think we're gonna broom finish this, we're gonna leave it smooth. So I just went over it real quick with the trowel. It's starting to tighten up a little bit now, so I'm gonna do some more trowel work on it. It's got a ways to go before we finish troweling, but yeah, it's getting there. Yeah, there is some technique. It's kind of difficult to explain, but it's kind of like, you get the feel for it when you've done it enough. What you don't want to do is get it on edge and then dig in like that. You're going to make a hole, right? So what you want to do is it's pressure, really. You don't lean it necessarily, but it's just a little bit of, it's arced just a little bit from like this, right? So all you really do is you switch pressure. It's kind of like skiing, right? When you're on edge, more or less, you just kind of lean it a little bit that way, more pressure towards the backside when you're going this way, and more pressure on the other side when you're coming back. That's basically that's it in a nutshell. Now the rest of it's by feel. So, and then knowing when to hit it with a trowel, how to float it. It's not something you learn overnight, that's for sure. When I first started at it, it wasn't my best moment, but I got better at it as I went along. So I started out pouring little pads for like spas and hot tubs and stuff like that. Things that didn't really matter, was gonna get hidden anyway. That's how I learned. You practice, And I've always been pretty good at just picking up on things, hand-eye coordination, get the feel for it, kind of thing. It goes, but guys that do this for a living, and they make it look really easy. It's a lot of work. Guys who do concrete for a living, it's hard on the body. And we'll just leave it there for now and let it tighten up a little more. We're getting closer. Okay, so we are just about there. Got to wait for it to tighten up a little more to do some finish troweling, but it's getting pretty close. Probably another half an hour or so. I can finish trowel it and it'll be good. And then we'll on to the next step, which is going to be to get the sleeving in. This is pretty wet. This isn't even close because remember I wheelbarrowed this side first, right? So this has had time to cure a little longer than this side. So this side's further along than this side. Now, like if you get over here, this is getting close, but it's still a little soft to finish trowel it, right? So I will show you when it gets to that point where we want to start finish troweling. It's not gonna be hard yet, but it's gonna be where when you trowel it, it kind of stays. It doesn't leave these marks in it. So that's way behind. That's probably another 30 minutes behind this side. Maybe not that much, maybe 20 minutes. All right, so the pouring is done, it's finished. All I have left to do is want to let it cure out a little while. We are gonna end up painting this the same color as the floor so it matches. Matt is gonna bring the tile that he used on his backsplash in the garage, I think next day or so. And I'll tile this, make it look really nice and finished. All right, so concrete's drying or dried. So you can walk on it now. So right now what I'm gonna do is, next step is gonna be to grout in the sleeving. So I've already cut up some blocking to basically form this in and that sleeve there. So I'm going to show you how it's pretty easy. I'm just using it, kind of wedging them in. I'll show you kind of what I'm thinking here. This is a nice little trick technique. There's one. Then you don't have to nail anything, any anchors. And then you just bang them out when you're ready. Pull the forms. Done. Now ready to mix up some grout and get them set. This is probably one of the simplest things you can do because you already got a form built in. Yeah, and then we'll use a wet rag and clean this off. And then it just needs to sit. And this stuff, the nice thing about this stuff is it doesn't shrink. No shrinking. So when you put it in, if you were to just use like mortar or thin set, as it dries it would shrink. But this is non-shrinking grout. It's used for like when you do columns in a building, like a steel building on top of a slab. Usually they put a nut down, put over the stud, put a nut down, get the elevation of the column right, and then they fill between the concrete and the bottom plate of the beam, or the not beam of the column with this stuff, with non-shrinking grout. And it helps support the column. And you wouldn't want to shrink because then it wouldn't do any good. Well, just giving it one last little trowel. Now this is all going to get painted like the floor to match. So that'll be, and then it'll be obviously covered with Swiss tracks. So just trying to make it as nice and flat and level as we can. This is full cure in, I think it's 7.5 hours. Gives you a little time to work with it. And it dries really hard. Next step will be pull the forms off here, and then we're going to tile all the way around. All right, so we're at that next stage of the process where we're going to tile the cut edge of the existing slab. So this is the same tile Matt used on his backsplash in his garage. So he brought it in this morning. I set it all up and already wiped it clean because they were all smudged up and had dust and stuff on them. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go to Home Depot and get some sealer, because this is a porous natural stone, and if we try to set this, the mortar's going to impregnate into the surface of the stone. It's going to discolor and be all blotchy. So I'm going to seal it first with some 511 sealer, and then let it kind of dry out here. Probably do 2 coats of that, and then I'll start setting the tile. The stuff right there. So this is going to seal the stone tile. A little plug for 511 here, a Miracle Sealants company. So anyway, it doesn't do anything to doesn't change the finish, doesn't put like a gloss on or anything like that. It might make it a little darker. It says they're not supposed to, but sometimes it does make it a little darker depending on the stone. But we'll do that first. That way the thin set doesn't stain the tile. At least it'll help. Man, I would love to use an OG spec bucket, but I don't want to ruin a $400 bucket. No, man, you're mixing grout in OG spec buckets. Yeah. Well, I could tell Matt this is the best bucket ever and kind of build it up. Like, dude, I can't go back now. Home Depot buckets are trash. I have to use this, but you've spoiled me. You know, dude, you know what? Instead of, and it's going to say Obsessed Garage thin set on the side instead of Obsessed Garage wash, rinse, or wheel. Yeah, and we could have a thin set, a grout label, and I'll just have my 3-bucket combo. I could do, yeah, that would be, I'm going to suggest that. And the other thing I'm going to suggest, Builder Series shirts. Carhartt, pocket, OG hex right here, Obsessed Garage on the sleeve and one on the back, all Carhartt. Builder Series, right? The Mike Figueroa Builder Series shirt. Why not? Huh? Oh, I do need the buckets, Mike. See, I got too distracted talking about shirts.
Gamma seals too.
Oh, no, I don't think those are quite Gamma seals, but we'll do this. So I could work at Depot, Mike. I feel like I could now, you know? I bet everybody feels like they could now. Like, who needs a checker? This is easy, right?
This is all you need to know.
That's it. That's it. We're $92.43. And should we? Oh, you know, I forgot Jeff Sucker. This is how nice a guy I am. I'm gonna stop what I'm doing and go back, admit my forgetfulness, and I'm gonna go get him a cotton. I see it right here, cotton candy. Look at that, right here. I can tell by the colors. We better get two. We better get one for Matt too.
Are you sure that's?
I'm just gonna get. Yeah, it's cotton candy, brother. I know. I've seen Matt get these 100 times. I have them memorized. There's hot dogs out front too. You know, Mike, people are wondering what's going on with the camera. It's really puzzling to people. Like, what is this guy doing? So we already bought all this stuff, but I forgot suckers. I promised someone I would get them suckers.
Oh my goodness.
So I have to take care of them.
Will you be paying with the Home Depot card?
No, I'll pay cash for these.
Okay.
I think I have enough cash for these, huh? What are these, $4 each? Oh, only 79 cents, a bargain.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I have that. Jeff, I hope you feel important after this. I'm gonna give one to Matt, but you know, that's how much I like Jeff.
Last time we came.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You have a good day.
You too.
I'll keep the receipt in case I need to return
That's
them.
right.
Yeah, okay.
I don't see that happening.
Important cargo here. I gotta get the suckers out. Should we give Jeff his suckers? $3.78 for those 4 suckers, Mike. 79 cents each plus tax.
Oh, you got me too?
I got you 2.
Oh,
Bonus sucker.
man.
You get the same quantity as Matt. Look at that. See? The same level.
Cotton candy and 2?
Yeah.
Dude, this is next level.
So we're giving it a coat of sealer right now. I think I'll probably do 2. It dries pretty quickly, and you can see that's already drying. I just did that a minute ago, and it doesn't look much different than this. So it's really not changing the color, which is great, but it's gonna help keep it from discoloring. I was explaining earlier, this is so porous that it can discolor with mortar and grouting. So we're gonna try to avoid that as much as we can with doing sealer. And I'm just using a microfiber towel. This is the Coating Removal Towel 3.0. So I went and grabbed one of these. Can be found on the website. I think they're $1.50 each. So pretty nice towel for this, actually. It's working perfectly. Sorry. 2 coats of this, and then I'll let it dry for a bit, and then I'll start laying out for tile in there while this is drying, and then we'll start. I might have to cut these. I think these are, I haven't measured them, but we've got exactly 4 inches in there. Within a 1/16 of an inch, we're at 4 inches. And that's what these measure. So there might be some points where I have to skim cut a little bit off of the side of them so that they don't come up above the existing slab. Because these are, I noticed some of them they're a little irregular in size. So there's some of them are probably just over 4 inches. So I'll have to trim a little bit of them off of them so that they're not above the slab. All right, so here's where we're at. I've got this side done. I've started this one already. kind of show you what I've been doing. Basically, I've got thin set mixed up, just troweling it on, setting them, and then I've got these work as not just a 16th inch spacer, but they also come with these, which I think you saw us get us at Depot, right? So these slide in like this, and that way the tile becomes, it's on the same plane. As you put these in, it brings this tile out or that tile in, or a combination of the two, so they're on the same plane. And then I've been setting the height to the top of the, with my knife. So, and I've been using the wedges underneath, because concrete is, as much as you want to try, you're never going to get it closer than a 16th or so floating it in. So I've been using these to keep it nice and level with the top here, so that way when the Swiss Trax carries over right to the edge, there won't be any gap. And I'll probably end up grouting this top edge when I grout the tile. I'll do the grout down here, grout the joints, and then grout this edge, and then it'll all tie in. And then we'll paint everything, and it'll should look pretty good. Okay, so this is probably the toughest cut of the whole project, where the sleeving is. I've already done those two, but I've got to cut this tile to length, obviously, first, and then I will come and mark. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I eyeball it, because this is going to get covered with the plate anyway, but I think just the hair of this part of this shows, and just for my own peace of mind, I want to tile it, even if it's covered up, I'm going to tile it. So I'm going to make this cut to length, and then I'll come back in with a tile, mark it on the back side where this radius is, then I'll go out and cut it by hand with the tile saw. So let's do that. If you're just making cuts across, or even right down the middle or something, you can use a scoring tool. You know, there's a bunch of different brands, but they're easy to do. You just score it, and then there's a lever handle you pull over, and it pushes down the other side of the tile, and it breaks it right down the scored line. That's easy to do. I use those rather than a tile saw if I'm just doing a bunch of cuts going across the tile or down the middle. But when you start cutting just the edge, or if there's not enough room for that to work, you have to use a saw. In this case, I was cutting, paper thin, like that. You couldn't do that with the scoring tool. You have to use a saw. That's it. We'll go lay out the back side for where the pipe is, and then come back out, and I'll do that by hand. So that's where that's going. So what I do, mark it here, and then try out to there. So this isn't rocket science, right? We're just doing this. I can draw. Like that, right? So I'll just go outside and freehand cut that with that saw, and that'll be enough for us to. Looks pretty close to me. The other side came out pretty well, so just like that, and then we'll be able to get our hoses through. All right. Well, let's see. Proof's in the pudding, man. There we go. We're right at the top of the pipe right there. So this here doesn't matter at all. I'm not too worried about that. But that's where we're at. Top of the pipe is literally right there. All right. So tiling's done. At least the setting of the tile is done. We're gonna let it set over the weekend, pull the spacers out Monday, and clean everything up. I'll scrub it down with scrub brush and sponge, get it ready to grout. We'll grout it Monday, and then probably the next day after that, touch up paint where I cut for the sleeving and did that, paint down here, and then we'll wait a few minutes after that. Concrete's still pretty green, and we'll set the lift in, and that job will be done. All right, so we're at that process where this is sat over the weekend, tile's good and set. I pulled all the spacers out of that side already, kind of cleaned up a little bit. Of course, I'll have to go back with a scrub brush and some water, get all the thin set off of the face of the tiles, clean out the grout, grout lines. And so right now I'm pulling spacers out of this side, and then they'll clean up afterwards. So these are pretty easy to get out. You know, this is the spacer get the height set so it's flush here. And these you just pull forward and release that, and then these just break off. And that's that. See, like right there, a little bit in there, clean that out. I'll come through with a scrub brush. All right, so I've got all the spacers out, I've cleaned everything, it's ready to grout. So what I used was I got a just a sponge with a Scotch-Brite on one side and a stiff brush. And I'd already picked out the joints, the mortar out of the joints with a tool, and basically just want to get anything on the surface off. And yeah, so we're going to grout in between the existing slab and the tile. This is all flush, so we'll grout this and then grout the joints, obviously. So it's not going to need much grout, so we're going to go out and mix that, get that going, and then yeah, we'll get in here and grout it. You want this about the consistency of toothpaste. So water in first, followed by some grout. This is unsanded grout since we have such thin joints. You don't need sanded grout. And I always put the water in, then add more powdered grout until I get the consistency I want. And then once it's about there, what we want to do is mix it up and then let it sit for about 5 or so minutes, and then mix it one more time, and then it's ready to use. What you don't want to do is add more water. It's called retempering. You don't want to do that. If we were doing a lot, I wouldn't be doing it with this putty knife. I'd be using a mixer, but we're just making a little bit, so this is going to work just fine. That's looking pretty good. So let that set for about 5 minutes. Do a real quick remix on there, and then we can start grouting. Okay, so it's been about 5-6 minutes. Remix that is the perfect consistency. That's what we want, just like toothpaste. And I think that's going to do it. I think that's going to be enough. Don't need a whole lot. We can always mix up some more, but I think that's going to do it. Pretty good guess. That's where we're at. We just finished. It was just a guess. I can't say I'm that good. Let it dry for about another 10 minutes. I'll do an initial wipe with the grout sponge, and then we'll let it set about another hour and a half, and then we'll do another wipe. Done. Called the tile done. Might seal it again, actually. Might not be a bad idea. See how it comes out tomorrow, how it looks tomorrow after it cures and dries, you know. But I like it. I think it looks good. And we'll carry the Swiss tracks all the way to the edge of the tile. And this is why it was important to make these cuts nice and straight, because our installing tile, if these would have been wavy, you know, we would have had variations in, you know, the tile, and that wouldn't have looked nice. So with the lines are pretty, I mean, they're within probably a 1/16 of an inch. All right, so we're at that point. We're doing the final detail work here. So if you remember, this was a slot for that, for sleeving to go to the control. So we got this is from Sherwin-Williams. It's a concrete, they call it a stain, but to me it's actually laying down more like paint. So I brought a chunk of this concrete in, a piece of this actually, and they color matched it pretty closely. It's still not dry yet, but if you look like here, this is pretty dry. It matches pretty closely. I mean, this is obviously a little dirty, so, but it's not bad. I think once the Swiss Trax is down, it'll blend right in, you won't see it. And that's what we're going for, just trying to make it look good under the Swiss Trax. So I'm gonna do, obviously this slot, do some touch up around where the spalling happened, and then I'll paint down here, both sides, and I won't show you I'll spare you the process of having to watch paint dry. So I'm just gonna get it painted, and then we'll come back after it's all done, see how it looks, but I think it's gonna look good. And I'd mentioned earlier in videos that we were thinking about tiling the base, but Matt opted to save that for his house, so we're gonna do it when we do the lift at his house. So instead we just tiled the perimeter of the cut concrete, and then we'll tile the base at his place. So this is actually the correct height. I was gonna leave it low. I don't think I mentioned it in the previous videos. I was gonna leave this another 3/8 of an inch low, but because he decided didn't want to do the tile here, I brought it up to the correct height. So we are just about just a shade over 4 3/4 from where the top of the Swiss Trax will be to down at this slab. So anyway, I'll get it painted, and then we can look and see how it comes out a little later. So we are done with foundation, ready to install the lift. Paint's in, still got to dry up there a little bit, but yeah, it looks good. I'm pretty pleased. The tile came out well. The Swiss Trax is really going to finish it off, but we can't do that until we get the lift in, because we don't want to drive the forklift on it. So you can kind of get an idea what it's going to look like over here. I've touched up the match is pretty close. Sherwin-Williams got it pretty darn close, especially looking through Swiss Trax. You cannot see the difference at all. This is obviously the trench went all the way over to this pipe. I cut the pipe off flush, installed this section of Swiss Trax throughout, and then trimmed out where the hole's going to be. And yeah, I'm pleased. We hopefully get the lift in tomorrow, let the paint fully dry, and then we got to move a few things around and get the crate out and pull it apart. And then I've got some ideas on how to get it in without scraping up the floor or cracking a tile. So I'm going to go get some conduit. And I'll show you guys what my idea is tomorrow. We'll use the combination of the forklift and some conduit. I'm going to make some rollers to bridge across the openings. We'll set each platform on them, kind of roll them in, and then lift up with a lift and pull the conduit out and kind of gently set it on the ground. So that'll be next video.